Stephen Colbert is firing back at Donald Trump in his first monologue since having his late show canceled, telling Donald Trump three simple and blunt words, quote, "Go fuck yourself."
Would an untalented man be able to compose the following satirical witticism? Go f yourself.
That was what Stephen Colbert's message was to Donald Trump following CBS's cancellation of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, claiming that it was due to quote-unquote financial decisions. But many are speculating that there was a political reasoning behind it. And Colbert, in his first monologue following the show's cancellation, not only told Donald Trump to go F himself, but also said that the $16 million settlement issued by CBS News to the Trump administration associated with the 60 Minutes interview of Vice President Kamala Harris last year, well, that settlement was nothing more than a, quote, big fat bribe. And it's bringing up more and more speculation that what CBS News did was not for financial reasons, but rather was to appease the president so that he can approve an upcoming merger between Paramount, the parent company of CBS News, and Skydance. The owner of Paramount, Sherry Redstone, is a Trump supporter from all intents and purposes and all public accounts. And while she needs the FCC's approval, this administration's approval, to push forward with this massive merger between these two large companies. And so what does she do? She cancels Colbert's show. She settles with Donald Trump. And we'll see what happens next with the future of 60 Minutes. But that's not the only person firing back at Donald Trump. Yesterday, Donald Trump and the Trump administration released more than 200,000 pages of MLK-related files, specifically files related to the surveillance of MLK Jr. over the course of many years. These files were released despite strong objections from various family members of MLK. Well, one of the family members, Bernice King, his youngest daughter, actually trolled Donald Trump on Twitter yesterday saying, quote, she released a picture of her father just kind of looking off into the camera with the caption, "Now do the Epstein files." Donald Trump is able to release the MLK files. He's able to release the files related to JFK and RFK, but the files that he has yet to release are the Jeffrey Epstein files. And she is alluding to that fact that Trump's release of the MLK files were likely nothing more than a distraction away from the fact that he has yet to release the Epstein files. And speaking about the Epstein files, there is a mad dash this morning within the Department of Justice to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell is Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator. She was convicted of sex trafficking and other criminal offenses back several years ago. She's currently serving 20 years in federal prison at a minimum security prison facility in Pensacola, Florida. Her release date currently is 2037, although that's going to be moved up a little bit with good time, etc. But Ghislaine Maxwell really was Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman for many years, and she was convicted of her association with Epstein and trafficking young girls for Epstein. Well, now the Department of Justice, and specifically Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, are saying this morning that they have reached out to Maxwell's counsel to set up a meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, with potentially Todd Blanche, but also with Pam Bondi herself, to try to see whether or not Maxwell has any information associated with any third party who could theoretically be associated with Epstein and be criminally charged. Now, a lot of questions arise. Number one, the timing of it is very suspicious given the fact that it's happening as the Trump administration is facing major backlash from the general public associated with its handling of the Epstein files, number one. Number two, why wasn't this done earlier? Why wasn't this done when the Trump administration first essentially arrested Jeffrey Epstein back during the first administration? Why wasn't it done when before Maxwell went on trial? Why now? And all those questions still remain to be answered. And speaking about Epstein files on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson, who's a very close Trump ally, announced that there will be no votes on releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files until after Congress returns following its August recess. So essentially Congress is going home for the next month or so. Members are going to return shortly after Labor Day, and they're going to be considering likely a resolution to release the Epstein files, but also whether or not to keep the government funded for the next fiscal year. In other news, Coca-Cola this morning announced that it will be launching a new cane version of its soda this fall, following a claim by Donald Trump that he convinced the company to ditch high fructose corn syrup. But here's the thing. The original recipe is not changing. The high fructose corn syrup Coca-Cola will still be made. Donald Trump didn't convince the company, despite his public statement. Coca-Cola is just making a second formulation that is going to be made up of cane sugar, essentially Mexican Coke, just an Americanized version this fall. FEMA's urban search and rescue chief, Ken Pagurek, has resigned and will return to the Philadelphia Fire Department. And according to reports, the reason for his resignation was due to frustration over FEMA's flood response in Texas. Now think about that. FEMA's flood response in Texas has led to the urban search and rescue chief to literally step aside in his role. That is a significant development, and we still have not heard anything regarding this from Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Tom Homan, Donald Trump's border czar, this morning defended ICE officers wearing masks, saying that the gear is necessary for safety due to its threats fueled by inflammatory rhetoric. And he went so far as blaming members of Congress to have emboldened threats against ICE agents. He was asked about polling, which shows that Trump's immigration policy and his agenda is really polling at an all-time low right now. His response was, quote, "I don't believe the polls." That is a traditional response from MAGA world regarding public polling and ICE. Tesla is facing a major financial blow as a new Republican-backed law is eliminating penalties for automakers failing emission standards, drying up the market for Tesla's lucrative regulatory credits, which brought in over $10 billion since 2019, and this will now potentially push the company back into quarterly losses amid an ongoing sales slump, thinner profit margins. Harvard University's publishing arm abruptly canceled a nearly finalized special issue of the Harvard Educational Review focused on Palestine and education, citing vague procedural concerns amid intense pressure from the Trump administration. But critics are saying that this is just a way to crack down, or a part of a broader crackdown of pro-Palestinian speech on campuses, and specifically at campuses targeted by this administration. Israel has launched a new ground offensive in central Gaza, and the United Nations is now reporting that nearly 90% of the Gaza Strip is under evacuation orders or within Israeli-controlled zones. The World Health Organization says its warehouse was attacked by Israeli forces. The foreign ministers of 25 Western nations criticized Israel's drip feeding of aid into Gaza, calling the model dangerous, and this comes as over 1,000 people have now been reportedly killed while seeking humanitarian relief since May. Israeli strikes in Gaza and Syria last week reportedly caught Trump off guard, prompting a call to Netanyahu to, quote, rectify the situation. And finally, China has imposed exit bans on a U.S. federal employee and a Wells Fargo banker, preventing them from leaving the country, marking the first known case involving an American government worker. Mao is reportedly tied to a criminal investigation. The federal employee is believed to have been flagged for not disclosing government employment on his visa. That's all the news right now. If you want to support my work, subscribe by clicking the button below, and I'll see you once again this evening.